Transition is defined as the passage from one state or place to another. It's essentially another way of saying change. And if you haven't been in transition over the last 12 months, you maybe haven't been paying attention because there has been a lot of transition in our world, in our culture, and in our lives over a fairly recent period of time. In some ways, it doesn't matter what that change or transition is. It can be a transition into something that's fantastic, into something that's successful or enjoyable or fulfilling, or it can be a transition into something that is less fulfilling, maybe disappointing. We still go through a process of grieving in the midst of the transition. That's still a reality for us. I've been working with a couple of clients recently that their transition is going from being a small company where, hey, there was these 7 or 8 best friends and we all did the thing together and it was great and exciting and we got to talk all the time, to now we're a much bigger company, and what's exciting is we're impacting more people and the vision is expanding and it's getting larger. And the reality is there's still a grieving in that we don't have that same level of back and forth and access to communication and day-to-day just bonding that we used to have when we were smaller. And this is really, really normal. This is just a part of life. I know for me, in my journey last year, going through chemotherapy for breast cancer and coming out of it, I am just now in the last couple of months pausing and getting in touch with the grief of some of the things that I missed over that time. I think I was just in survival, and now I'm sitting here and it's August, and I'm thinking, I'm really disappointed I didn't have a birthday party last December. I miss celebrating some things that I would have loved to have celebrated. I just didn't feel good enough to do it. I was sick or weak or tired. And I wonder where we get stuck when we get stuck in this process of change, and how we can relate to the grieving part of transition as something that is honoring and sacred and healthy, allowing ourselves to really receive it as natural and normal, as a resource, instead of attempting to run over it or rush through it or pretend it's not there or judge it as bad or wrong. So during any transition, you're going to find yourself on probably some type of emotional roller coaster. You'll be excited one minute, and then that grieving part of the transition or change might sneak up on you. That's completely normal. That's part of the process of transition or change. Or if you're like me, you might get captured in nostalgia. I notice I glorify the way things were, and sometimes the way things are seem not as good. I'm comparing them to something, not even something that happened, but my memory of something that happened that I have polished over and, in a sense, fantasized or glorified even in my memory. Sometimes it's easy to get stuck in an identity conversation or be destabilized, because I knew who I was when we had 5 people in the organization and I could make decisions faster and felt more autonomy in that. And now that there's 20 people or 40 people, there's less autonomy in certain ways. There's more collaboration required, more agreements in place, and really more expectation on myself, but also on other people. And navigating that feels at times like an identity shift or an identity shake, like a destabilization of the way I had defined myself in my mind. And that could be the biggest part of this whole transition that makes it difficult. Giving ourselves permission to redefine ourselves in a new context and to step forward into something new, into something beautiful and powerful, even though, yes, it may be unfamiliar. We all know that familiarity and certainty is its own special comfort. It's its own drug, in a sense, and we are all addicted to it biologically. Not a problem. When we're aware of that, we can leverage that during transition to choose to be excited about the uncertain, the unknown instead of afraid of it. Dr. Henry Cloud says in his book, Necessary Endings, getting to the next level always requires ending something, leaving it behind, and moving on. Growth itself demands that we move on. And without the ability to end things, people stay stuck, never becoming who they are meant to be, never accomplishing all that their talents and abilities could afford them. So maybe you're in the middle of transition and you're feeling stuck. And maybe part of the reason you're feeling stuck is this resistance to grieving, or an unawareness of the grief you may already be in around the transition or the change. And how can those two things sit together in your body, in your awareness that yes, I can be grieving the things that I'm losing in this change that are a necessary ending, and at the same time, I can be excited about what's coming my way, what is being birthed, because they're both happening at the exact same time. You know, even today, when I was sitting down in my front yard to film this video, I noticed these leaves were already changing. And it's the beginning of August. And it just reminded me that fall is coming. And you know what? It comes every year. It comes every year. And I love fall. And I really extra love summer. So there was a little bit of loss, a little necessary ending happening when I see the leaves start to change so early. And I asked myself, am I ready for the fall and what the fall will mean and what it will bring? And I think in a small way, maybe that's what transition is about for us, asking ourselves, are we ready? What do we need to let go of? What do we need to embrace to move forward? If you're feeling stuck, it could be a great opportunity to examine your grieving. Is there something you're holding grief about or around in the middle of this change or transition? So wherever you're at in this transition that you're in, or maybe more than one transition, I have a lot of other resources for you. I have a whole playlist on grief. I have a whole playlist on pain. Check it out and see what is resourceful for you in this moment. If this video touched you, if it connected with you about where you're at, like, subscribe, comment, share it with a friend. We all need a little support these days.